If you found this podcast, chances are you're a high achiever and you're successful. But now you're stuck and stressed, and you realize that everything you've created hasn't given you the fulfillment and the joy you thought it would. This is where we discuss the keys of high performance mindset and stepping into the next best version of yourself. Welcome to the Positive Persistence Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Positive Persistence Podcast, where we bring you stories to inspire you and strategies to help you tap into your potential and become your best self. Today, we're joined by an incredible visionary whose journey will inspire you to rise stronger in the face of adversity. She's a speaker, best-selling author, coach, and she's dedicated to helping others reclaim their voice, purpose, and power to lead boldly. Now, her story has earned her recognition as a 2025 American Heart Association Women of Impact Award winner and an ambassador for Abbott Laboratories' Global HeartMate Initiative. Tara Benoit, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ian.
So happy to have you here. And I want to say congratulations on your newly released and best-selling book.
I really appreciate that. It's been a whirlwind.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Quite an achievement. Well, I want to hop into this conversation, and for any of our listeners and viewers who are not familiar with you and your story, because it is quite a story, let's talk about how your life changed forever by your SCAD heart attack at age 46. And I was hoping that you could break down what a SCAD heart attack is, because I know a lot of us have heard of a heart attack, but you had a SCAD heart attack. So can you tell us what that actually is?
I would love to. And to be honest with you, I did not know what a SCAD heart attack was until May 21st, 2023 either. And so SCAD stands for spontaneous coronary artery dissection, and it is a type of heart attack. But the mechanism of it that occurs in the heart is different than probably 95% of when you hear the word heart attack. Traditional heart attacks, although there are many names for them, widowmaker, cardiac arrest, such as that, is when in the artery you have plaque buildup and that results in the heart attack. A SCAD actually happens when there's a tear in the lining of the artery that occurs within one of the three layers of the artery, which then causes the heart attack. It has been said that it's rare, but to be honest with you, it's more common than we know, but there's just not enough research done on it. It occurs in about 90% of women, mostly 50 years old and younger, and 10% men. And it is, unfortunately, a reoccurrence can happen. So I have met many people who have had second, third, and fourth SCADs over the years. And so that's something that we live with, unfortunately, in our recovery.
Right. Do we know what causes that tear in those layers?
So that is what, for my journey, has been extremely frustrating, is that they don't know. There are several factors that they believe could be contributing factors. But again, because there really hasn't been enough research done, particularly in women's heart health, we don't have a lot of those indicators that are completely valid. And there are the factors that they do know could relate to hormones, because majority of women who have SCADs are between the ages of 30 and 50. So there's some hormone components to it. There is a large percentage of women who have SCAD after giving birth, even when they go home with their newborns a month or two later. There are some correlations to stress, which is really important for your audience particular too, because a lot of times in life, we look at keep taking care of ourselves physically, right? And we talk about eating healthy and working out. And those were all the things that I was doing. I started becoming an athlete at a very young age, and I embodied wellness and fitness. But I could tell you my stress level was always super high. High achiever in everything that I did. And stress can kill you. And I do believe, for me personally, it was part of sort of the dynamic that happened for me, is the emotional stress that I was carrying for years. But again, there's also some correlation to possibly heavy lifting. But when I dove down into the research for that, there's really only a couple studies that were performed, and they were performed on men lifting heavy weights, not someone like me who obviously is female, but I've been lifting weights since I was 16. So it wasn't, I just walked into a gym and picked up heavy weights.
Right.
I've been training under that condition for quite some time.
Yeah, and for those of you who are watching this episode, you probably can't see it or appreciate the fact that Tara is buff. She is ripped and she's got muscles. So when she's saying that she was lifting heavy, she was lifting heavy. That's no joke.
I was, and I miss it. I do. I'll tell you. It's after I had my SCAD, I was told that I could no longer lift heavy weights anymore, and it was one of the most challenging times after that, not only in healing and the recovery, but then knowing it could happen again. And on top of that, the sport that I competed in for decades, and really what I identified with, and I know you're an athlete and you can appreciate this with what you've gone through. I don't really want someone to tell me I can't do something, especially when it comes to my physical body. And I had a really, really hard time with that. And I have learned, and we can talk about this, in ways to transform that into something else. But it wasn't easy at first, I will say.
Yeah, there is, I would say, almost nothing harder than having to change your identity because of something that happened that was out of your power. And then you're having someone else tell you that you can't do this thing that you identified as. Like, that was your thing. That's who you are. That's what you did. And now they say, you're not going to be able to do that again. And that is so hard.
Yeah.
Yes, that is one of the hardest things to have to change and really recreate and walk away from the identity that you held so dear, that you really, you took for granted. Like, you thought that was just going to be who you were going to be, because that's what 100%. You love to do, and you loved yourself in doing it. And then all of a sudden it stops. So can you share with us what the moment was like, or what led up to the moments before your heart attack?
Yeah, absolutely. So I decided in 2019, to back up a little bit, that after having been off of stage from competing in fitness and figure competitions, that I was going to get back on stage. My boys, they were 6 and 8 years old, and I had the bug. You know, if you're a competitive athlete or anybody who's had that competitive edge, I always wanted to go for my pro card, which means you'd be recognized as a professional athlete. And I said, it's go time. I was ready. I had the fever. I had everything. And so I started training, and then COVID hit. And that did not stop me. We built a gym in our home, my husband and I, and who's also an athlete. And I continued to train through COVID, through having 2 kids at home, homeschooling, whatever that was looking like at the time.
Yeah.
And really considered myself, leading up to 2023, in the best shape of my life. I thought I was mentally in the best shape of my life. I was working and training, 5-7 days a week. My food and nutrition was on point. I was sleeping well. My stress level probably could have been less, but again, high achiever mom, women, career, doing all of the things. And so, heading into May of that year, I was working with coaches and suit designers, and I was getting ready to compete that year in London, actually. And I had visionary boards that had the word pro all over them. And it was in my mind. Like, I was getting this 100%.
Yeah. You were doing all the things.
And my boys were watching me, and I just felt like on top of the world. Yeah. And there's some comeback stories within that story, but I'll leave that as that. So in May, one night I was laying in bed, and I had this sharp pain, almost like a lightning bolt, go through the left side of my chest. Mm-hmm. And I know my body very well. I'm very in tune with it. And I sat up straight enough to say, what was that? I've never felt like that. I've never felt this before. And it happened over and over again. And I sat up, my husband came in, I was trying to explain to him what happened. And then about 10 minutes later, it went away. And looking back at the time, I think I just thought maybe I was laying down on my side too long. You know, when you get aches and pains and you try to justify, like if you have like a pain in your head, what's that? It's just aches and pains. And so it went away and I noticed it. But, the week went on and I didn't feel it again. So I just thought, maybe it was just, something.
Mhm.
And then about 4 days later, I was getting my boys ready for school and I bent over and I started getting this tingling in my fingertips, my left hand. And it trickled all the way up my arm, into my jaw, into my back. And then I started standing up and it felt like someone was squeezing my heart. Like 2 hands were wrapped around my heart and pressing on it really hard.
Mm.
And in that moment, I said, okay, yep, that's not right. That is definitely not right. But I had my boys jumping on me. I was trying to get them out the door for school. I didn't want them to know anything was wrong. Of course, in true mother fashion, drove them to school, dropped them off, called my mother, as we always want our moms. And I said, something's wrong. And she brought me to a hospital. I spent the day. They could not find anything wrong with me.
Really?
And and the doctor came in and he was a younger doctor and he looked at me and he said, we think it might be an anxiety attack. And I said, all due respect, I know it's not an anxiety attack. I know it's something else. I've had a history of anxiety. And then at the time, everything was being blamed on COVID, which is a really hard position for me to be in because we didn't know that much about it.
Right.
And it could have been from COVID or the vaccine. So I walked out of the hospital that day knowing something was wrong. But again, like so many people, when you're going through something and you're looking for a doctor or someone who can help you and they don't, where else do you go? I think a lot of people are in that situation. So I went home and then the next day I tried to go through my routine. It was a Saturday. I usually work out on Saturdays. I did not work out that day. I didn't feel great. My energy level was really low. That pressure in my heart was getting worse. And I just kept saying, no, it's from COVID. It's from COVID, because I knew it wasn't anxiety. So I went to bed that night and I woke up really, really early, like 1-2 o'clock in the morning. And the pain that was in my heart had moved to my back, on the left side of my back. And I got up, took Advil, tossed and turned all night, finally went back to sleep. And Sunday morning is when I walked downstairs. I was standing in the kitchen and I was drinking a cup of coffee, one of my favorite things to do in the morning. And all of a sudden, my heart felt like just fireworks were exploding in it. And the whole left side of my body was it was a combination of feeling like someone was stabbing me with these explosions going off. I broke out into a sweat from head to toe, like nothing I've ever experienced. Started kind of fainting, passing out, room was spinning, couldn't breathe. Husband called 911, and within seconds, there were EMTs standing over me when I was on the floor. And I will tell you, even in that moment, they did not think it was my heart.
Wow. What was their assumption?
They didn't know. Everybody kept looking at me like, you're so fit, you're so healthy. Do you have low blood pressure? Do you have low sugar? Is it anxiety? Is it from COVID? They just jump to all these conclusions because they look at how you physically look.
Yeah.
And inside, it's almost as if I'm screaming, I need help.
Right.
And so they brought me back to the hospital I had just left 48 hours ago, and they drew my blood, and I was laying in this hospital bed, and I was in so much pain and scared. And the doctor came in and he sat down and he looked like really serious. And my husband and I looked at each other and we looked at him, and he put his hand on my hand, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, what is he going to say? And he said to me, there's something in your blood called troponin. I had never heard of this word before in my life, before this moment. And he said, it's elevated. And I looked at him, okay, what does that mean? Right. He said, that means there is something wrong with your heart. And I almost about started laughing out loud. I was laughing. I thought he had the wrong room. I thought he had the wrong person. I said, I have a yoga class to go to in 2 hours. You definitely don't have the right person.
Right.
And so, and that's when it got really serious. Mm-hmm. But they still had not, so now we're 5 days in from the first symptom and they still didn't know. And I had to wait in the hospital for 5 hours before they sent me by ambulance down to Boston, which is about half an hour from where I live.
And then you get to the hospital.
I get to the hospital. And I'm thinking the whole way down in the ambulance ride, I'm going to get there. They're going to rush me in. They're going to find out what's wrong with me. It's like 5 or 6 o'clock on a Sunday night. No, that is not what happened. They put me in the hallway. Then they finally had like an open triage area where they put me in. And we're in like a hospital that's downtown Boston where like you see really things that I did not want to be seeing in the midst of what I was going through, blood and just people screaming. And it was awful. For any woman or anybody out there that is listening to the story and relates, my heart is with you because, ERs are, you're in an ER usually when you feel the worst you ever have in your life.
Yeah.
And most of us just want a quiet room to be able to figure out what's going on. And most of us don't get that. Yeah. And so they finally put me into this open area and they came in, the cardiologist came in, he had, a bunch of other doctors with him. They determined that they wanted to do a cardiac catheterization because they did an echocardiogram of my heart, which is basically an ultrasound of your heart. Mm-hmm. And they found some abnormalities. And I said, okay, great, let's go. Well, hour passed, and I still wasn't going. It's now midnight. And they said, we're going to send you in the morning. So now I haven't eaten, I haven't drank anything. And for all of my athletes out there, like, your body is fine tuned to eating and drinking. And all of a sudden I'm not, and it was revolting. I had a migraine, my chest was getting worse. It was scary for me. And so the next morning I was waiting and to make a very long story short, it ended up being 3 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. And they still had not brought me up into the OR. I ripped the cords, the IV cords out of the wall, a little spicy over here. Yeah. And I threatened to walk out of the ER. And within half an hour, I was up in the cardiac catheterization lab. And I bring this story up because I'm very passionate about everybody using their voice in every moment and to not back down no matter what. And sometimes that looks like making yourself feel uncomfortable in front of people, making yourself say something maybe you normally wouldn't want to say. It's maybe out of your personality, but you can get the care that you deserve in any situation, but you have to be the person who speaks up for yourself because you're the only one who knows how you truly feel inside. So fast forward to the cardiac catheterization. You'll love this. I was laying on the table and the doctor came over and said, we really don't think anything is wrong with your heart.
This is a cardiac doctor?
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
And so a cardiac catheterization for listeners is a procedure where they take a fine, thin tube that they either insert through your groin or your wrist, and it goes up directly to your heart, and then they put a dye in it. So you're awake, but you're under medication. Mm-hmm. So I'm laying there, and there are all these TV screens on the left of me, and I can actually see my heart on the screens. It was the most wild thing I've ever experienced before. And so I'm trying to breathe because at this point, my breathing was very shallow. I couldn't take a big breath and I still had the pressure in my heart. About 5 minutes passed and the doctor, he kind of cleared his throat and his voice changed immediately. And he said, well, I'm glad we did this. And I kind of looked over at him and he said, we found something. There's an artery in your heart and it tore. And I'm just thinking, what? And he said, yes, you had a rare heart attack. It's called SCAD. And that really was the moment that changed everything. And in that moment, there was a combination of, oh, good, something's wrong. I'm validated in everything that I've gone through. And now they know it's wrong. Yeah. And now they can help me and now they can fix it. And I, go home and get back to the gym. But then there's the other part that was, well, what is SCAD and what does that really mean for me? And combined with, holy moly, I'm 46 years old and healthy and I have no cardiac risk factors. How in the world is something wrong with my heart?
Yeah.
And did I do this? And so that was really the pivotal moment right there that changed everything.
So did you have multiple heart attacks or you had one main heart attack incident?
I had one true SCAD, and what the doctors, the cardiologists, because now I have an entire cardiology team at Mass General Hospital that is amazing. It took me 3 to 4 months to find them. But what we think happened is that the tear started that Tuesday night when I got that initial jolt. Now, SCAD, which stands for spontaneous, a lot of the times people have it instantly and don't have any mornings. And I had mornings for days before. Some women do. And I really think because I was so in tune with my body and I felt everything that I was aware it was happening. So I believe the care that I took of my body saved my life to some extent because I was able to, but I do think that it was sort of it started to tear and it stopped and it started and it stopped. And then that Sunday morning when the fireworks happened, that was the full tear.
It's interesting that you say that because, both of us having fitness backgrounds, I truly believe that when you are in great shape and something traumatic happens to you physically, you are able to bounce back from that so much better because of the shape that you're in. And when I talk to people that I work with about, being in shape because it could save your life, like you're training for life, literally.
Yeah.
100%. I don't want to like scare them into like, well, you better be in shape because you never know when you're going to need it. But that's real. Like when you don't have any underlying health factors and something crazy happens, well, you're going to be able to bounce back all that much faster, right? And make a fuller recovery. Now, I want to talk about your book. So in your memoir, Torn Heart, you share like really raw experiences of trauma and transformation. For you, what was the most challenging truth that you had to confront about yourself, and how did facing it actually help you heal?
That's a really raw, vulnerable question.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Right. So in writing my book, when I started writing it, I came from this certain place that I really wanted to share my experience to help other people who were going through traumatic times in their life, no matter what that is. And look, we all face something. We all face something that we do not think we're going to come back from. And I wanted the story to be reflective on that. So in all truth, I thought that I would be able to hide parts of my story as I was writing the book, because I thought, I can't share that because that's off, that's over there. But as I started writing, I thought to myself, you know what? I have to share every part of who has made me, what has happened that has made me who I am, because that's what evolves me. And so anybody that's reading it or listening to it who's facing those own challenges has to also face their past and face anything that has happened to them to move forward and to evolve and to become, which is what I'm trying to do and lead in that process. So to answer your question, it really was about being completely honest with who I am, what has happened to me in the past, accepting it, learning from it, and moving on from it, because we can't go back. We only can move forward. And we all have had, and I hate to say this, but a lot of us have had horrible things that have happened to us. And it's difficult because I do also believe that trauma lives in the cells in your body. But there's a lot of things that you can do to help with that. Different therapies, different ways, modalities that can help with that. But I really believe that in order to become the best version of yourself, you have to kind of live in what you've gone through, accept it, find a way to process it, and then use it in whatever way you can to move forward. And maybe that's helping other people. Maybe that's sharing your story with somebody, and it doesn't have to be on a podcast. It could just be with one friend, but you really have to do that to move on. And,
It's time to ask yourself, when was the last time you prioritized you? Did you know that research shows that nearly 85% of high performers struggle to maintain a performance mindset while juggling the demands of work and personal life? Those who actively prioritize their performance mindset and personal growth are 30% more likely to achieve their goals in business and life. If you're feeling crippling stress and anxiety, or if you're feeling guilty when you take a moment for yourself, or if you're stuck in the grind and feeling burnt out, you're not alone. Many of us yearn for more, but struggle with the fear of being judged or feeling selfish. And you want to step into the next best version of yourself. That's why I created the Rinse Method, which got me from paraplegic to marathon runner. Backed by science-based proven strategies, and now customized for high performers like you. If you're stuck and stressed and want clear steps that you can implement today to move forward, make sure you visit thepositivepersistence.com to download our free rinse PDF.
Yeah, I think when you talk about being self-aware, and that's so important in order to overcome your adversity, because like you said, you have to accept it.
Yes.
Like you have to accept the fact that this wasn't supposed to happen to me, but it did.
Right.
Like, now what are we going to do? Right. Like, now what are we going to do to move forward? Like we can't, well, we certainly can sit in it, but how does that serve us? Right. Like, what are we going to do with that pain? Like you said, we might as well use it to move us forward, and I was just going to say, and talking about moving us forward, that is a really great segue to your method. But let's go ahead and back up. And what were you about to say?
No, I was just going to say, and I think it's also important to recognize that it's okay to accept what has happened, but also go through the emotions of it. It doesn't mean that you can't be angry, or you can't be mad, or you can't be upset, or any of those feelings. And I actually recommend for people to go through the full emotions. I mean, the first year after my SCAD, I probably cried more in that year than I've had my entire life. That there's a healing in that, and that's okay. So you can heal and move on, but you can still feel how you were supposed to feel. It really mimics grieving, in my opinion. I grieved a part of who I was after my SCAD because I had to change a lot in my life, a lot. And I was very mad and angry about it, but that's okay. And so it could just know that no matter what is happening to you, it can get better. And I believe that 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. And you are definitely right that you have to, just like you have to accept the scenario, the situation that you're in, you also need to accept all of the emotions that come along with it and the feelings that come along with it. And, it took me a better part of a decade to be able to accept the fact that I wasn't going to ever be the same. Right there, I had to have this departure of this vision that I was going to make a 100% recovery and be the person that I was before my surgery. And it took me, like I said, at least 10 years to realize that that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And I had to accept that. And I had to realize that I'm never going to be the person that I was, but I can be 100% of the person that I am now.
Yeah.
Right. And do the best that I can to be that version of myself. Let's talk about the method that you developed, the MOVE method. Yes. Can you explain to us what that is and what advice you would give to our listeners and our viewers on incorporating that method into their own lives?
Yes, thank you. So the MOVE method is a framework that I created that has the pillars MOVE, which stands for manage, overcome, value, and evolve. And these are honestly simple pillars that I have used for decades in my life through not only the heart attack, but going through childhood trauma, some other body image, eating disorders, some other adversities that I have faced. And they're simple, everyday ways of mindset shift, if you want to say, and choices that you can make that ultimately can affect your outcome. And when I was healing from my heart attack, because I was laying down most days, I really had to take a huge step back because, again, I was not working out. I was working out for me was walking up a flight of stairs. And I had to say, okay, what can I do right now that's going to help me get through this day? And that was as simple as it was. It wasn't anything more than that. And so the manage part, which is my favorite and is something people can do today as a takeaway, is what can you manage and what do you have control over? Not what do you not have control over? Because every day we have thousands of decisions that we can make from the minute we wake up. Actually, what time you wake up is a decision you can make. What you eat, what you put in your body, what you drink, what you move, who you engage with, who you text, social media, moving your body. There are just all of these different choices that lined up together. If you make the best for yourself in each one, you've created a perfect day, in my opinion, and keeping close to you the good energy. And so overcome is really a step of looking at anything going in your life, knowing that you're going to have to go through it and understanding that it's not one big leap. It's really sort of these small steps that you're doing, which is a combination of both. Value is really finding the lesson in the struggle. That really comes later on, but it's under, and I say this because I do this myself, where when we're in the thick of something, it's difficult to look at, okay, well, what's the value going to be now? So for example, laying in the hospital bed, when the doctor told me I could never work out again and I'm going to be on these medications, you're not going to ask me what the value of the story is right there.
Right.
However, if I were to think back 10 or 15 years ago at a story or a situation I went through then and thought, okay, what was the value in that story? And then you can kind of piggyback on it and say, this is something is going to be great. That's going to happen because of this. I just don't know what it is yet. Yeah. And you don't have to be happy about it, but just sort of wrapping your arms around the fact that that is a possibility. And then E is evolve. And I do believe everything that happens to us in our life is part of our involvement. And we have the opportunity to make the decisions through managing our control, through going through our challenges, through valuing our experiences, and how we evolve as a person. And a combination of all of those done every day, small steps, just can create a better version of you and how you react to things, how you get up from things, and how you can really overcome anything that is thrown your way.
Absolutely. I connect with every single one of those pillars so well. And I love that acronym that you used. And, you know, when you're talking about finding the value, like, you're right. Like when you're in the weeds, like it is so hard to see the value. And I'm going to get this phrase wrong, but there's that saying that it's hard to see the frame when you're in the picture or something like that. But like,
I love
when you're in it, you're not going to see what the benefit is, but there
you don't want to, honestly. You're like, no.
Yeah. And you're right. There is so much power in hindsight and looking back in your past when you're dealing with adversity, when you're dealing with a challenge, and being able to look back and remember all the things that you've been able to overcome before and realize how strong you are and realize how capable you are and realize how powerful you are. And when you are able to tap into that, into your past achievements, that just gives you strength to know that you can overcome whatever is in your way now.
Yes.
So I love that method. And I'm so glad that you shared that with us. And I know that you've kind of touched on it, your fitness background and physicality. And let's talk about the role that physical movement actually plays in emotional and mental healing. And if you can share with us, like, are there any practical ways for somebody to start using movement to kind of rebuild after they've experienced a traumatic situation or event?
Yes, this is my favorite kind of stuff to talk about because, I have always believed that movement of your body can help you heal from anything. And sometimes that's going to look a lot different. But for me, and it's tied into the emotional part. And it's funny because earlier you were talking about athletes and how it's easy to bounce back physically. But I almost think for us, it's more difficult to bounce back emotionally because we all of a sudden things are taken away. That is our coping mechanism and the way that we heal and we reduce stress. If you are someone who uses your body normally to help with that, and now all of a sudden you can't do that, you're left with a whole lot of open mind, right? But so for anybody that's going through anything traumatic, physically, what I did is after my heart attack, I started stretching. So I laid down most days and I could have just laid on the couch and just, flipped through the TV all day. But I didn't. I started moving my legs up and down, side to side. I eventually got on my side and started just doing like quad stretches or circles. Then when I felt good enough, I'd get on the floor and I'd watch TV and I'd have the movie on and and I was relaxing, quote unquote, and doing what I was supposed to and resting. But instead of laying there, I would sit in a straddle, or I would sit in like a hip flex, an Indian pose, or I'd stretch my arms over my head. It seems so basic, but when you actually stretch your body, it allows oxygen to go, in between your muscle fibers, and it helps the cells in your body regenerate. I would start walking up and down a flight of stairs. You don't have to be in a gym. You can go outside and walk around your house. You can take soup cans out of your kitchen and literally move them up and down in like a lateral raise or bicep curls. Take 20 minutes. You can do freestanding squats. You don't need weights. Mm-hmm. And set a timer for 20 minutes and do 10 squats, 10 lunges, 10 jumping jacks if you can, if you get to that point. But most importantly, I also believe that movement for your mind is meditation. And meditation for me was a big part of my recovery. And this was, I use the Calm app I don't know if you know the Calm app. It's free. I absolutely love it. And I started off with 2 or 3 minute meditations, and now I'm up to 15 to 20 minutes, where I have a dedicated amount of time, and you can do it in the morning. You can do it at night, preferably when no one's around. And it helps bring your nervous system down to a place where you can actually almost, I say, start from scratch, which is why I like to do it in the morning, because you lead your day, you go into your day with just a different mindset and a different level of control. And I'll tell you, I did yoga I practiced yoga, and I did before my heart attack. It's changed a little now, but I always thought that I was meditating at the end of yoga, which a lot of us do, but this is different. This is a intentional way of recalibrating your nervous system so that you are ready for anything that happens to you for the day ahead. And anybody can do it. It's free, and start with 5 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's how I start my day.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Isn't it? Life-changing.
It is the way, I'll just speak for myself, just to set myself up for success for the rest of the day. To wake up and to meditate, take about 20 minutes, and I do it first thing in the morning, dark space, quiet space, and it's just, me and the universe, and I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Do you still get, because I know sometimes I love it, and I know the value, and I feel the benefit of it. And it's interesting. I'll bring this up just really quickly. As a woman, we're always, our body image and how we weigh and what we look, everybody's always concerned to some extent. Mm-hmm. And after my heart attack, once I started being able to go to the gym again, my body had changed a lot. And I was at, top shape. Then I wasn't, but I kept my nutrition clean, and I kept my choices for food clean. And because of that, I was able to stay in pretty good shape. But what's interesting over the last year is I've actually dropped 10 pounds. And everybody keeps saying to me, why do you even look like you're getting ready for a show? And I think it has to do with the nervous system calibration of the meditation as part of it. Now, my working out is different. I don't have as much muscle mass anymore, but I will tell you, I'm not in fight or flight anymore. So when you're in that like fight or flight response, a lot of women are always like weighing themselves, which I'm not a big fan of the scale, to be honest with you. Your cortisone levels are up. It stresses you out more. You're not going to work out. So all of a sudden I stopped thinking about that and just really started taking care of myself. I work out, like you said earlier, to live longer. Like, we have the most amazing free resources. It's almost a miracle to me that everybody is not doing what we're doing. Like, you can cook these amazing meals that nourish your body. You can take amazing vitamins. You can there's so many things that we have the availability to, but our society thinks that it's a burden, or they think that it's like we're giving something up by doing those things, but we're not. Yeah. We're doing those things because it makes us feel so good, and we're taking care of who we are. I just wish more people could feel that.
Well, I want to ask you this question, because this kind of leads into a lot of people feel stuck in life, and where they want to make a change. They are not happy with where they are. Yep. And they find themselves in, and this is true for, a lot of my clients, a lot of people I've worked with over the years have been female. They've been women.
Yeah.
who have been the caregivers for everybody else. Like, and I couldn't help but think about while you were telling your story, like how strong women are.
Yeah.
Like there you
Yeah.
are having a heart attack, but
Yeah.
you are taking care of your boys, probably making them breakfast, fixing their lunches, driving them to school, doing all the things, getting yourself ready, and you're having a heart attack in that moment. But you don't let that stop you because you're mom, right? And mom has to do all the things, right? And women are so strong and so powerful that it amazes me the things that you guys deal with and just keep rolling. Like it's just like that's who I identify as. I identify as mom. It's just what I do, right? It's amazing. So for individuals who for real, really. And what I have found is that a lot of women will get to a point, at least the women that I have worked with, will get to a point in their life where they're like, how did I get here?
How did I get here?
Like, this is not the body that I want to be in. This is not the energy that I want to have. I feel drained. I feel overworked. I haven't started the business that I want to start. I'm not in the career I want to be because I've been giving myself to my family all of these years. I just feel stuck, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's in their careers, whether it's in just being passionate about life or their health, what advice would you give to someone who's feeling this way, like that's unsure of how to take their first steps towards transforming into the next best version of themselves?
Yeah, I love this question. The first thing I would say to every single person is give yourself the permission to want to change. And that is acknowledgement of yourself. Because I think a lot of us get stuck in, we don't know what to do next, but part of us isn't allowing ourselves the permission to do that. I would like every woman to look at themselves in the mirror, really look at themselves in the mirror. Whether they like what they see or whether they don't like what they see, you have to look at yourself. And if you're unhappy, that force is going to create you to make a change. And allowing yourself to really think about what is it that you want to change. Now, I'm a big advocate of journaling. I also love whiteboards and visionary boards and anything you can do to get it out of your head. A lot of us say, well, we want to work out, we want to create a change, but we don't actually know what that looks like. And so I say, get it out of your head. Take a pen, take a piece of paper, take a notebook, and write it down. Do you want to lose 5 pounds? Do you want a new job? Like, first you need to identify, give yourself permission. Then you have to identify what you want to change, and not just in your head. Write it down, and then implement one change every 7 days for 3 months. And every week it has to be a different change. And when I say change, it doesn't have to be a huge leap. It just has to be something small. So for example, if a woman came to me and says, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, great. The first week, I want you to track everything you're eating every day in a notebook, the time, what you ate, how much you drank, and what you did for movement. And then we're going to sit down and look at that. And we're really going to dive into it. And so the change could be their food. It could be how much water are you drinking. It could be cutting out alcohol. It could be cutting out coffee. And so it really is, you don't have to take a huge leap right at the beginning. And I think that's why, so when we talk about New Year's Eve is coming up, right? A lot of people get so excited about it because they have these big goals, which I love big goals. Believe me, I do. Which you don't have to wait till New Year's Eve to make the resolution, all of you out there. Start today.
That's right.
Start the pre-New Year's Eve. But it's because it's not sustainable. Big changes occur for most people in the everyday little steps that we make and we talk and we do. And so identifying what those are and putting those into an action plan is going to help you instead of becoming so overwhelmed that you have to have an answer for everything. And to be honest with you, I'm in a huge transition right now, building out this new brand with the book. And this is what I'm doing every day. And I still have days where I say, what am I doing? And that's what I try to do to kind of ground myself. Yeah.
Awesome. I love those steps. Very practical and easier to do than most people think. It just takes some commitment and consistency to be able to see those things through. Tara, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show today. You have dropped so many pearls of wisdom and knowledge bombs like we had talked about before we hopped on here.
I love this word. Can I start using that word?
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where can our viewers and our listeners find out more about you?
Absolutely. So you can go to my Instagram handle, which is at Tara Benoit Inspires. I am also tarabenoit.com. You can find free resources on my front homepage. I have a free journal that you can download right on there. And my book, Torn Heart, is on Amazon currently, available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle.
Awesome. All right. We will make sure that we put all of those links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Everybody has availability to that. And I want to, again, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And I want to thank all of our listeners and our viewers for joining us as well. And as we always wrap up our episodes, remember to stay positive, stay persistent, and know that mindset is everything. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in and being part of the Positive Persistence family. We're having a great time creating this content, and we truly hope it inspires you to embrace positivity and persistence in your own journey. If this podcast episode inspired you or entertained you, scroll down, hit those stars, and leave a comment. Your 5-star reviews and shares encourage us and help us grow the show. So until next time, stay positive, stay persistent, and remember, mindset is everything.